You're watching The Sports Objective, the podcast for Pirates.
That stadium is going to be rocking, and heaven help whoever walks in there to play us.
Sustained effort and violence, you play your ass off.
You're watching the Pirate Preview on The Sports Objective. Join us every Tuesday night on YouTube Live as we're joined by beat writers and other media members as we take a look at what lies ahead for the Pirates. Now, here are the guys.
It is a first down. Pirates.
That never gets old. Welcome into the Sports Objective, our Pirate Preview, as we do that every Tuesday night now this year. And we've got a lot of great weekend, or I should say weekday programming with us right now. Ladies and gentlemen, all the way from the big city of LaGrange, Kyle Barber. How are you, sir?
What's going on, Dave? It's another day, another dollar, and slowly working my way towards that big day next Monday where I have surgery, and hopefully I'm on the path of recovery. How y'all doing?
Good. I'll be there for you, brother. I promise. I will be there for you. Not in the operating room, but I'll be there for you at the hospital. So.
No, Dave, I don't want you in the operating room.
Don't worry.
If I hear Dave Richmond to the OR, well, I better not hear a damn thing. But I better be sleeping. But.
Yeah, I hope so. That's what I was going to say. You won't know if I'm in there or not. Bubba Rosenbaum, what's up? How are you?
Doing well, guys. Obviously, last weekend, not the result we wanted, but, very excited about the prospects for this team and looking forward to talking some Pirate football as always.
No doubt. And ladies and gentlemen, former linebacker in the Logan era, and that would be in the mid-90s. I'm talking about Matt Semenza. What's up, brother? 49 is alive and kicking.
What's going on, guys? Happy to be here, and definitely looking forward to another game this weekend. It's never easy. Every game is tough, and ODU coming off a huge win over Vatek. So I think it's going to be an exciting matchup.
No doubt about it. And Matt is not 49. That was his number. I'm actually 49 years old, so I wanted to make sure that Semenza's still on my side, and he's got my back and not my foe now. He's my friend for sure.
Thank you for the clarification, Dave. Don't age.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, Bubba Rosenbaum, very glad to have this guy back with us from ODU.
Yeah, this guy was with us just a couple weeks ago as we previewed the Pirates 2022 slate. And welcome back in from ODUsports.com, a guy that knows an awful lot about the Monarchs down through the years, and that's Harry Minium Jr. Harry, we appreciate your time this evening.
Sure thing, and I'll say this every time I come on with you guys. I've been a closet ECU fan for a long time. A lot of my family members went there when I was in my early 20s. I went to some ECU games just to watch you guys play. So
Harry,
root for you 11 times a year. So
there you go, Harry. I was going to say, I didn't know if you had joined the team here on the Sports Objective. You did such a great job a couple weeks ago, and you're back with us. I was like, man, he's back with us now. So, but we have the previewing tonight, the big game on Saturday night. Let me just say, not only am I happy to play this series, I actually like ODU being close by. We talked about that last time on the preview for this game, for the preseason game preview, if you will, before the Pirate preview. And I love the fact we're playing each other. I love the fact that I wish you guys were in our conference. That's a whole nother show, as they say. We talked about that a couple of days ago. But having said all that, Kyle can attest to this. He and I were talking on Friday night. Said, hey, ODU and East Carolina is always a great game, always tight, and we're happy about the series.
Well, I can tell you Old Dominion's delighted with the series. I don't think it's a rivalry yet because you've beaten us 3 times. The last 2 were close. I think Old Dominion needs to win a game before it's a rivalry. But it's great for ODU. Ricky Rahne was saying in his press conference this week, it's nice to be able to get on a bus and drive 2 hours to a game, as opposed to getting on a plane, and you know what that's like, or busing to, we'll be busing to App State. That's a long way to go. So, but there are a lot of ECU fans in the Tidewater area. They always turn out for basketball and football games. I think it's a great rivalry, and I do wish we were in the same league. I really do.
Yeah. Before we jump into last week's game against Virginia Tech and then preview the game against the Pirates this weekend. I'm sure we touched on this. I wasn't on the show when you were on before previewing the season, but Old Dominion joining the Sun Belt Conference year one in the league. I think it's a good fit. Would have liked to have seen Old Dominion in the American instead of Charlotte, just to be quite honest. To me, if you're going to go after a market that actually doesn't have a professional sports team, and the school actually has a presence, unlike Charlotte. That's another story for another time.
You're preaching to the choir here. Yes, you are.
Yeah. So ODU in the belt. You mentioned bus trips. Boone's a lot. But it is a bus trip. You can go to Boone. Harrisonburg. You can go to Huntington. These are all reasonable trips. You could even, I don't know. You guys gonna fly? I don't know if you play at Coastal this year. If Coastal plays there,
we are playing at Coastal. We're going to fly.
Okay.
Simply, it's not much more expensive than busing, apparently, and it gets you back so much quicker. It's about a 5.5 hour or 6 hour drive, right?
Yeah, but a very regional conference now for Old Dominion, and so you have that. So I like the Sun Belt. I like the approach they took to me for conference expansion. What they had in mind versus what Mike Orozco's second. What the Americans' fallback plan was when those Mountain West teams didn't make any sense to me. And who knows what's to believe in terms of if ESPN told the American don't take any Sun Belt schools. But the bottom line is you guys were in Conference USA at the time. So I don't know what the reasoning behind the American not looking at ODU was.
I'll say this. I've written this. So I'll go ahead and say it. I thought Conference USA made a mistake 10 years ago when they went after markets rather than programs. I think FIU was, it's in a great market, Miami, but, no one from the Miami newspaper or television stations cover their games. Meanwhile, App State has a good program, and that would have made Conference USA a better league. I think the American is making the same mistake. That FAU they're in Boca market. That's a big market and all that. But if you saw their opener, they don't draw a lot of fans, and they don't make they don't make much of an impression in that market. And I think you should go for strong programs. In our case, we shot ourselves in the foot in that we haven't been that strong lately. We went 5-7, 4-8, 1-11, and then did not play. So then we were 6-7 last year. We all knew that the program had gotten better under Ricky Rahne, but that's hard to sell. So in the end, I think we wound up in the right conference. I think the Sun Belt is perfect for us. We love being in a league with JMU. They're an in-state rival. So no, I love the Sun Belt. I love the fact that all of our games are now on an ESPN network as opposed to being on like Facebook Live. And I feel bad for the Conference USA teams that are really good. I tried to watch a game the other night and it was on Stadium, and I did find it eventually. But
UTEP, North Texas.
Yes.
Yeah, and UTEP stuck in that league, and North Texas is coming to the Americans, so they'll be on ESPN platforms.
Exactly.
But for the schools stuck in Conference USA, UTEP, Louisiana Tech, FIU, Middle Tennessee, Western Kentucky, it's kind of a death trap. And I think, and we'll get off this topic and move on to what we're actually here to talk about, but I think Liberty's going to dominate that league moving forward. I think they got more money than everybody else in that league, and I think they're kind of using Conference USA as a stepping stone to try to get into the American or the Sun Belt.
I think so too. Liberty, obviously Liberty wanted to be in the Sun Belt. It just didn't happen for them. They do have, as people say, more money than God. They have a lot of money. Their facilities are wonderful. They've done very well. They have a good fan base. I agree with you. I think eventually they'll dominate that league. Although I must say, when they played Southern Miss, I watched that game Saturday night. Liberty, it's not the Liberty team that they had last year. So.
I watched I'm like you. I watched that game on ESPN Plus through 4 overtimes instead of watching Ohio State and Notre Dame or Utah and Florida. I sat there and watched that stupid Southern Miss Liberty game through 4 overtimes because, as you're a closet ECU fan, I'm a closet Southern Miss fan. So,
I love Southern Miss. I felt bad for them.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah.
No doubt. Harry, let's talk about the game on Saturday nights. Can you give us how are things going so far with the team, and what are the expectations going into Saturday's game? You guys have a huge win over Virginia Tech. I know Virginia Tech was not the Virginia Tech we probably have seen in the last 10 or 20 years.
Dave, shut your cat up, man.
You know, I've been a sports writer, a sports journalist for 44 years. That's the first time I've experienced that.
Okay.
Trying so hard, yes.
Yeah.
Dave was talking about the upset over the Hokies. I think that's what you were talking about. All I hear was the cat.
Yeah,
talk about the game this past weekend against the Hokies before we move on to the preview and the game with East Carolina.
Well, the first thing is, you know, for Old Dominion to beat Virginia Tech, even if Virginia Tech is not on the level they usually are, it's a big deal. The game sold out without tickets going on sale to the general public. It went to, of course, our stadium's a lot smaller than, you know, we only seat 22,000, but season ticket sales and sales to members of our foundation sold out the stadium, and which is pretty impressive. You know, the governor was there, the attorney general, Michael Vick, Bruce Smith, they were all there. It was a big, it was a big game. And when the students on the field, I kind of watch the students, and they just drank it all in. It's a kind of a joyous moment that Old Dominion hasn't had for 4 seasons since the last time we beat Tech. As for the game itself, Old Dominion their defense played really well. Blake Seiler is a great defensive coordinator. Jason Henderson, the linebacker, who was under-recruited because he was a high school wrestler, and people didn't think he was going to fill out, and he has. He had 18 tackles, middle linebacker. He's a stud. Old Dominion had 4 interceptions. The defense was outstanding. The offense was not. It struggled. I think we had 258 yards for the game, and half of them came in the fourth quarter when we drove for a touchdown and a field goal. You have to remember, one of our touchdowns was a botched snap on a field goal that sailed into the stratosphere, and then our guy picked it up and ambled in for a former ECU player, by the way, Robert Kennedy, picked it up and ran 25 yards. The offense has got to be much better to beat ECU. I watched ECU, NC State. I thought you guys outplayed NC State. It's a well-coached team. I love your quarterback. I love your defense. I love the fans. They were. I noticed one of these online sites that sort of Twitter sites that grades fans and grades teams. They had the ECU student body as the 8th best student body in the country over the weekend, and that speaks well. ODU was 9th. So this is going to be this is a more difficult game for Old Dominion than Virginia Tech. I think ECU is a better team.
Harry, and if they would have just rated the female student bodies, it would have been much higher. But you mentioned
not
your
that one.
Well, not too about touching them, but you can look at them. You mentioned quarterbacks and our quarterback. Your quarterback is 6-2 as a starter, which is very impressive. I don't know how many people realize that. He played some before taking over the starting role, but he's 6-2 now since he's been the starter at ODU. He seems to be a game manager. To talk about what his strengths and weaknesses are.
Well, this was his worst game I've ever seen him play. He the first 3 quarters, he couldn't, as I wrote in the game story, he couldn't throw it in the ocean. And we asked Ricky Rahne about that after the game, and he said, well, the first thing is I asked Hayden about it, and Hayden said, well, it wasn't pretty to watch, was it? No, it wasn't. Ricky said that a lot of players on his team, they were just too jacked up. It was a big game, and they were just too jacked up. They didn't play loose. Hayden is a good passer. At times, he's a great passer. He's really smart. He can check off plays a couple of times. His biggest weakness has been his ability to, on RPOs to carry the ball and run. He hasn't done that much. Friday night, he got made a couple of tough runs where he really got pummeled, and he got up and he was fine. And so I saw a lot in him that bodes well for the future. Hopefully he will not be jacked up as he was. You can't get jacked up every weekend, and we'll play better. If Old Dominion's offense, if they play like that against East Carolina, it'll be a long night for ODU.
I wanted to I wanted to say, by the way, we love Ricky Rahne. We'll have him a couple questions that Bubba asked, but wanted to put this question on the screen for you, Harry, from Craig. He was asking about, are there any expansion plans for ODU Stadium? JMU also seats 25,000-ish, he believes.
There are plans sitting in a closet. We spent, the first thing is Old Dominion it's a young program, and we spent a lot of money up front renovating that stadium in 2009, and then building all of our other football facilities and rowing facilities and all that. And we incurred some debt. And then we just, when we moved up to FBS, we had to rebuild the stadium. We spent $71.5 million. And it didn't expand the seating a lot, but basically we tore down both sides of the stadium and rebuilt them. So right now there's not a lot of cash in the, in the cash register to expand. They've talked about a couple of things. They can add seats to the east side. They can add another deck up there, which would add about 6,000 or 7,000 seats. And they've also talked about doing away with the south end zone and putting more modern seating there and maybe some clubs. Up until this year, there hasn't been a demand for seating, and that's been an issue. We sold out when we were an FCS team all the time. We moved in the FBS, and we kept selling out. And then we hit a rough spot, and attendance declined quite a bit. And then the pandemic really took a bite out of it. So when you're not filling your stadium up, when it's half full for most games, you're not really thinking about expansion. I think we're going to sell out a lot of games this year. I think we're going to sell out Liberty. I think we're going to sell out Georgia Southern, which is our homecoming. I know we'll sell out JMU. And at that point, there may be some talk about expansion. Right now, we don't need it. We may, that could change in a month or two, if the demand for ticket exceeds supply.
No doubt.
And that's the thing to keep in mind. East Carolina's been playing football for a long time. We've been playing football since 2009. We're still a baby. We have a long way to go in developing our fan base. Our fans were great Friday night, but we still have a long way to go.
You still have 7,000 more seats in Charlotte.
Ding,
you guys,
Charlotte.
Say again.
Ding, Charlotte.
Exactly. You guys had a lot of starters coming back on both sides of the ball. I'm sure. Again, we touched on this a couple of weeks ago when you were here. I missed that show. What is your situation with offensive coordinator? I know you guys let your offensive coordinator go a few weeks before the season starts. Who's calling plays for offense, and what was that all about?
I don't really know what that was all about. If I did, I couldn't tell you because I work for ODU. I was told it was something that just needs to remain private, and that's that. I know he wasn't, our offensive coordinator wasn't at practice a few days before it was announced. And the new offensive coordinator is Kevin Rahne. He's 30 years old. He grew up a Penn State fan, but wound up playing on the offensive line at Stanford and then going to Penn State, where his dad was a star, by the way. His dad was also a star in the NFL. And he played at Penn State, their first grad transfer. And he's been with Ricky for a number of years at Penn State and here. Brilliant guy, really smart, and 30 years old. He's one of the youngest offensive coordinators in the country. And by the way, ODU has the youngest coaching staff in the country. And I think that's a good thing because these coaches relate with the kids and kids relate with the coaches. And I'm not saying that old coaches can't coach because I'm 69 years old, you know what I mean? But I think having a young staff has helped them recruit. And Kevin called a good game Saturday night. It wasn't the calls, it was the execution, and the execution wasn't coaching, it was the players. And that last drive, Kevin saw some holes and 2 long passes from Hayden to Ollie Jennings, the third. Caught them both. It was an amazing comeback, and he's off to a good start. He also called the plays in the loss to Tulsa in the Myrtle Beach Bowl. our offensive coordinator, was let go after last season, and so Kevin called the plays in that game, and he called a good game. Kevin's a great guy. He's one of the funniest coaches I've ever been around.
Yeah.
You said 30 years old. It reminded me of the very fact of Lincoln Riley was 26 guys. Help me out, Bubba. You're the numbers guy. I think he was around 26 when he started with Ruff and McNeil back in 2010. Yeah. So most definitely one of the youngest coaches ever, and look where he is now. I think he's got a nice little gig, don't you, Harry?
Yeah, he does. I like that. Yeah, I've always liked Ruffin very much. He's a good man. And you ask about returning starters. We have 10 on offense, and the good news for us is the offensive line blocked really well. Hayden had time to throw the ball, and that was, Virginia Tech is the Virginia Tech we expect every year, but they are a Power 5 school, and they do have their line is, their defensive line is big, and that was a good sign that they were able to open some holes for running and pass block against them. We have 7 back on defense, and like I said, the defense was outstanding.
Now, Harry, you talked about how that was Hayden Wolf's worst game, but obviously he played well late and came through there in the clutch. And you talked about those completions to Ali Jennings, and Coach Houston today in his press conference remarks concerning this weekend's game, he just raved about Ali, and he said that he's a high character guy and he knew him well. I'm guessing from the recruiting trail, and he just said that he's the serious playmaker, and also Watson, the running back.
And they're both really quality guys, Blake and Ali. Ali is, he was a 4-star recruit. He went to West Virginia and he got hurt, and he just kind of got lost in the shuffle. That happens sometimes at big programs. He lost his confidence and persuaded him to come here. And last year, the second half of the season, he just exploded. I think he's going to end up in the NFL. He should end up in the NFL. He's a quality guy. He's a funny guy too. He's very intelligent, and he's not a vocal leader on the field, but he takes care of guys. He has a cousin who's a wide receiver, and he kind of has taken him under his wing. That's nice that Coach Houston said that, and I kind of wonder where they met each other. I guess it was recruiting.
Still to come, we'll have some comments. Our very own Bubba Rosenbaum spoke to Ricky Rahne, asking him a couple questions. We'll have that. Andrew Baze, ECU Hall of Famer. He's going to be part of the Playfly Sports broadcast, and we'll have him. He's in the green room right now, I guess, eating some wings and some pizza, maybe some pretzels and some adult beverages. Maybe the FCC we don't have to really worry about. So, Harry, as far as this matchup, I saw, again, looking at the future schedules, I knew it was coming up. So we're coming to your house in 2024, not your actual house, but to come into Old Dominion 2024. You were talking about the 757. We were talking about the recruiting is tremendous there, with a lot of great players, a lot of great the fan base there. There's a lot of great people there in that area, and I bet that's going to be a really hard ticket in a couple years.
I hope it will. The last time ECU played here, the stadium was nearly full, but it didn't fill, and I was disappointed. So we'll see. Like I said, Old Dominion's program is on the rebound. We got a lot, even with as good as we are now, we have a ton of underclassmen. And you're on our schedule 6, I think, for the next 8 or 9 years, which is great. We'll see you almost every season. And if we can't be in the same conference, let's play non-conference. I think the 2 games ODU must always play if they can, are East Carolina and Virginia Tech. Those are the 2 they must play. And I know the people at Old Dominion are really appreciative that East Carolina was not only willing but anxious to play us and got this deal done. So.
You mentioned that, and you mentioned the game a couple years back. Both football teams were kind of struggling at that time when the Pirates made the trip up to Norfolk. You mentioned how your administration thinks it's important to play East Carolina, Virginia Tech as much as possible. How do you feel the Old Dominion fans view the East Carolina series? Obviously, not quite the excitement as the Virginia Tech, but compare it to like playing Marshall, for example.
Well, I think they're more familiar with Marshall because we play them every year. And the interesting thing is, I think Marshall is the only Conference USA school that our fans really developed any, as Ricky says, any healthy hate for. I think we've only beaten them once. But East Carolina, there's some healthy hate there too, because they remember the last two losses, and that last interception in the game at ECU. It's funny. We beat Virginia Tech, we go to East Carolina, and we lose. And Ricky pointed that out on his post-game radio show.
Yeah, I like that trend.
Yeah, I'm not a history major, but if I do recall that after we beat Virginia Tech last time, we went to East Carolina and we lost. So, the players know that. And this is a big game for ODU fans. The last I heard, there were 16 buses, I think, of fans coming down there. It won't be the first year we played there, we brought about 5,000 people. We won't be bringing that many, but we'll bring several thousand. And, I hope ECU does the same when you guys come to our place.
That was one of my things, Harry, is I was telling the guys, actually telling Kyle, we were talking, like I said, on Friday night about the ODU game, and you guys impressed me because not only did I like you guys from the CAA days where we were playing with non-football stuff, but the very fact that you guys came in 2013 and I looked and saw that tailgate in the Belk parking lot, and it was several thousand people. I told Kyle, I knew it was at least three. I said it was probably up to 5. So it was 5,000 for that game.
That's what they said it was. Who knows how many people were really there? Could have been 6, could have been 3.5. Who knows? Because you can never count the tickets that someone buys on StubHub or directly from ECU. You know? Not everyone buys their tickets through us. So, matter of fact, we played at UVA a couple of years ago. Almost no one bought tickets from our place, and we had fans sprinkled all over the stadium. So,
Bubba, I know Johnny Gardner had a question. We have a basketball question.
I was going to come back to that after we finish talking football. But both of these teams have tremendous defenses. So, at least it appears it's going to be that way. The Monarchs forced Grant Wells, the talented quarterback, transferring over to Virginia Tech from Marshall, into 4 picks and 5 turnovers on the whole for the Hokies on Friday night. So tell us about this Monarch defense.
It's a base defense. We have 3 safeties, so we play nickel most of the time. Often a cornerback is essentially another linebacker. Arturian Johnson, safety. He's a headhunter. He's got dreads almost down to his rear end. Great kid. Like I said, Jason Henderson, he's really good. The defensive line is big. It's experienced. And Ryan Henry, linebacker, he missed the first half of this game because he was caught targeting in the bowl game. So, that he had to miss the first half, 7-8 months later. And yet he had almost as soon as he came in, he had an interception. They like to create turnovers. They like to be unpredictable. They blitz, obviously, when you don't expect it. And, they won't bring 9 guys, but there were several times when Wells wound up with his face planted in the ground after. They didn't sack him, but, he knew they were coming for him. Wells was not great. He didn't have a great game. He made some unfortunate passes for Virginia Tech, but most of the interceptions were caused interceptions. They were someone was just really covered well, and a guy stepped up, or they knocked, and one of the interceptions they knocked the ball out of the hand of a Virginia Tech receiver, and our guy picked it off. So.
Yeah, Wells is very streaky. If you watched him at Marshall, when he's hot, he's hot, and when he's not, he's not.
Yeah, like you're saying, Kyle. Yeah, I remember that game. I'm trying to remember who they were playing, and maybe it's when they got upset by Rice. Maybe when he threw 5 picks.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, no one thought about this until after the game, but Old Dominion was up on Marshall by a touchdown with less than a minute to go last year, and he threw like, I don't know, a 60-yard touchdown pass. Somehow our safety just let a guy waltz right past them, which is, kind of inexcusable, but it happens sometimes. And so he connected on a touchdown pass, and after that, we were done. We lost in overtime. So,
but that was the turning point in your season. That loss really was. After that, y'all turned it around.
We did. It took us one more week. We lost. Actually, Hayden Wolf became the starter in week 7, and we lost to someone that week. I've forgotten who it was. But yeah, we played much better, and in the next 5 games, we really played well. Yeah, that was one of the 3 heartbreakers we had. At UTEP, we had a touchdown pass that they ruled incomplete, and it was the game-winning touchdown pass, and the replay showed it should have been ruled incomplete, and yet the Conference USA officials overturned it, and it was a touchdown. And against Buffalo, we outscored them 23-0 in the second half and lost on a missed extra point. So that team was really resilient, and that's kind of the hallmark of Ricky Rahne's teams. They're 1-6 last year, and they win 5 in a row. And they're just kind of like this, no big deal. That's what we do. Well, they lost their offensive coordinator, and that was hard because obviously you're close with your coaches, but after a week, it's like, okay, no big deal. We've adjusted. They didn't change the offense. It was really kind of Ricky's offense anyway, and they added one staff member from Wake Forest to rearrange things, and boom, they're ready to go a week later. So,
Harry, coaches say they don't pay attention to this kind of stuff. I call BS on it, and because I know it's bulletin board material.
Sure.
Obviously, this isn't players have anything to do with this. Neither does coaches, but Vegas has this as a 13-point favorite. I thought that line's a little too big. Not to say that the Pirates can't win it by 13, but I thought it should have been about a 6-point spread. How are you hearing? Are the players kind of offended by that? Is that being used as motivation for this week that you guys just beat the Hokies and you're 13-point dogs?
I'm not sure the players even know that. The players.
Oh, they know it. They guarantee it.
Well, I'd say this: the thing that was most offensive to them was being picked last in the Sun Belt East Division by coaches. That really stuck in their craw. So I don't think they care about the line for this game. Obviously ECU should be the favorite. I think the line should be like 9 or 10, but I thought that Old Dominion should have been favored against Virginia Tech. We had 10 starters back on offense, 7 on defense. We're playing at home. They got a new coaching staff. They were 6-point favorites, and I thought we should have been the favorites. So I don't know. Sometimes 13 points does seem like a big line, though.
Yeah, in my pick'em contest, it was 8.5, and I jumped all over that, taking ODU plus the 8.5. But
and he's referring to the Virginia Tech game.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, and I can't. Obviously, I'm a state employee, and the NCAA forbids me from betting, so I don't bet. I don't even. And when I go to Biloxi, Mississippi, I don't even pull the lever. So,
but as you know, Harry, obviously, special teams really hurt the Pirates in that 1-point loss to NC State and block punt for a touchdown there in the first quarter, and then you also had the missed PAT and then the missed field goal on the final or next to last play, I guess. But so just talk about the Monarch special teams and what are the Pirates going to be seeing from them?
Monarch special teams are pretty solid. We've got a new place kicker, Ethan Sanchez. He's from Georgia. Had a walk-on offer from Alabama. I had some other offers, some mid-level FBS schools. Has kicked really well. I think kicked 20 and 29-yard field goals, and right down the middle, plenty of room. I hope we can hold on to him. He's really a good kicker. Ethan Dwayne, our punter, I think he averaged like 46 yards a punt. He's a kid from Australia, and it's his second year of football. Last year when he opened against Wake Forest, it was the first college football game he'd ever been a part of or ever even seen. Actually, the first football game he'd ever seen. And he has a way of kicking the ball to where people aren't. He has good hang time when needed, and he's not good at the coffin corner kicks, but he is good at kicking the ball and at hitting at the 10 and landing at the 3. Their special teams are pretty solid. The return teams didn't really get a chance to show much. Tech's punter had, a lot of hang time, and their kickoffs are mostly through the end zone. Our kickoff return team did not play well, and Tech often was at their 35 or 40 to start a drive. So that's one thing that Ricky says they need to clean up. Overall, ODU special teams are pretty special. And Tobias Harris, he's a transfer from West Texas A&M Division II school. I think it's West Texas A&M. He was a Division II All-American punt and kick returner. So, hopefully he'll get a chance to actually return one this game.
Harry, before we let you
Yeah,
go.
Harry, and you could be sure that, Ricky Rahne is going to look at try to capitalize off of the mistakes of East Carolina's special teams because, let's face it, guys, East Carolina was abysmal in terms of special teams last weekend. And, it got us beat. At the end of the day, it got us beat. And then conversely, ODU, one of the main reasons they won the game against Tech was because they were able to capitalize off of a great special teams play. So two different situations there. But, I fully expect ODU to be very aggressive, especially considering the fact we have a rugby style punter. And I think they're going to be bringing a lot of pressure off that left edge like we saw last week.
I would not be surprised. They led the nation in block kicks last year. So they like to block kicks.
Yeah, I wish you hadn't told me that. I did not realize they led the nation in block kicks.
Look, I don't think you have anything to worry about this week with that.
You don't think so, Dave? Okay, good. I'm glad you coached special teams this week.
No, I didn't. I think that if he could, it's like locking your keys in the car. Once you've done it, you've done it. When he did it against NC State, I don't see that happening again. If it happens again, he won't play anymore. So
see Virginia Tech and East Carolina 2000. That's a little scary. And Bubba, you mentioned, or Matt, you mentioned that that Luke Larson is a rugby style kicker. He did in the game Saturday do traditional punting. That is what I would with ODU's tendency to block kicks. I don't know how much rugby style I'd do this week.
0.
Well, especially Kyle, if you have to take 3 or 4 steps like we saw,
and like you're just moseying along, la la la, yeah, you gotta do that in a hurry.
Yeah, I mean, you could see that block coming from a mile away. You really could. So I think, you're going to see ODU. Hey, look, they're going to try to replicate that. There's no doubt about it. Any coach would. So it's up to Mike Houston this week. And guys, it's the old saying in college football, and I say this every week, but the biggest improvement typically comes from week 1 to week 2. So you do anticipate teams around the country. You saw so many special teams blunders. They're going to clean up these mistakes.
Yeah.
And Mike Houston, guys, he is working special teams to death in practice this week. It's guaranteed.
No doubt. I have no doubt that we're working hard on special teams. I just did not realize Old Dominion led the nation in block kicks last year. And like he said, 17 starters back. That means most of those boys blocking them kicks are back. So that's something interesting to watch. Let's hope it doesn't come down to special teams this week. I certainly hope not. I do not like that. And if you are a gambler out there and you just heard that and you know the line of this game, I think the Pirates are going to win. I just do not like this spread at all, particularly now that I heard that.
Well, particularly since there are two teams with great defenses, 13 points is a big spread. Yeah.
Harry, a couple things for you from our viewers on Facebook. Johnny Gardner says, Harry, the Pirates will be traveling to Norfolk for basketball this season and last year, and those two programs met down in Myrtle Beach as well as at Minges Coliseum. So can you provide us a very quick update and preview on Jeff Jones Ball Club?
I don't have any names in front of me, and I would need the names in front of me to tell you about this team. They have only one guy who started last year back. They had a lot of guys transfer out. They had some seniors that left. I think some players were probably encouraged to leave, and they did, and they went to other programs. And Jeff Jones brought in 8 newcomers. I've seen them practice. They're pretty good. But it's going to be a completely different team, a completely new team. If you know, don't even watch last year's tape because none of those guys are here. So anyway, it's our first season in the Sun Belt. There are so many unknowns going into this season. We're playing a league we know very little about. We don't know much about Sun Belt basketball, and we're going to have at least 4 starters and maybe 5 who weren't in school last year. So it's going to be a very strange season. Jeff Jones has a tough job ahead of him.
As you know, transition in Greenville as well, and a lot of unknowns for the Pirates. They do return, I guess, about 6 players, but the majority of those are relatively unproven. You lost Tristan Newton, Brandon Suggs, and your more key contributors, and so a lot of questions to be answered for East Carolina on the hardwood as well. And then final thing we have for you tonight, Richard Allsbrook chiming in on Facebook saying, obviously Taylor Heinicke is, Old Dominion legend, and just talk about what he means to that program, because I know you spoke very highly of him when we talked about him, a few weeks back.
I love Taylor Heinicke. He's such a good guy. He is. He's the reason we're in the Sun Belt. We're in FBS. If he hadn't been there, we wouldn't have been a top 10 FCS program 2 years. We wouldn't have gotten in Conference USA. He's an amazingly smart quarterback. He's a great person. He lost his father when he was a freshman at ODU, and has never really gotten over that. He and his father were intensely close, so intensely close that coaches talked to his father about moving to Norfolk when they signed him because they didn't think he'd be able to survive. His father was in Atlanta and he was here. And, he had a great comeback story. He hadn't played in the NFL in 2 or 3 years, and he's in Atlanta working out. And, it's December and, and his sister, who he was living with, kept saying, Lauren Heinicke, I've forgotten her. She's married name. I've forgotten her married name. Says, don't give up. Someone's going to call. And then the Washington Commanders called, and he had that great game against Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Bucks. And, the rest is history. He's now a millionaire, as I keep saying Mr. Millionaire whenever I saw him. He was at the game Saturday. He was, Friday night. He was all over the place doing selfies with fans. He was on the sidelines during the game. When he got back to the Washington Commanders training, their training facility up in, I think it's Herndon, Virginia, the first thing he did is he left Old Dominion shirts in the lockers of 3 Virginia Tech alumni who play for the Commanders. And today, yesterday and today, he was wearing an ODU hat around there. So, yeah, he's maybe the most popular athlete ODU's ever had. He's just a great kid.
He's definitely great. I'm a Commanders fan, so love his story, and love his passion and the way he plays the game. No doubt about it. Harry, before we let you go, how can we read your stuff and obviously follow you on Facebook and Twitter and social media?
ODUsports.com is the easiest way to find it. There's a Max from Minium. It's funny. They called it Maximum from Minium. You can hit that and read my stuff. On Facebook, I'm under my name. And Twitter, you've got it up there at Harry_Minium ODU. Just do my name in Twitter and Facebook, and I'll pop up. I'm open, not private or anything. Love social media and love interacting with fans. And if you fans have any questions, you can hit me up on Twitter message, hit me up on Facebook message. I love interacting with fans, even opposing fans, especially when it's East Carolina. So.
All right. Thank you, Harry, for the time as always, and look forward to having you back on basketball season for sure.
Yeah, I'm so looking forward to seeing you all in Greenville. Thank you.
All right. Have a great night. All right. Appreciate Harry very much. And next up is a guy that's going to make his debut coming up in a few weeks. Bubba in the broadcasting booth, an ECU Hall of Famer, right?
Yeah, this news broke, I guess, back a couple weeks ago now. But, Kevin Monroe's been the color analyst alongside Jeff Charles, I guess, for right around 20 years now. And, going back to the early 2000s and the John Thompson era. And this year he is doing the home games. But Andrew Baze, former Pirate punter and kicker, will be joining him on those games away from Dowdy-Ficklen Stadium. Andrew, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, guys. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. This is awesome.
Andrew, now, is there any truth to the rumors that Kevin Moreau is actually on parole and isn't allowed to leave the state?
That's a trip. That's a good rumor. That's a good one. I might have to follow up with him on that one. He just kind of schmoozed me over about wanting to go to his kids' football games or something like that.
Well, I'm not so sure about
that. Well, I will leave that one alone for sure. Andrew, glad to have you back on the show. And certainly, first off, let's talk about this new gig for you. Are you excited? Are you nervous? Tell us where you are, because you were like, as a punter, you were lights out. Like, you never, when you were on the field as a punter, we never ever had to worry. Like, we're like, Andrew Baze got this, clutch, as my son would say.
Yeah, no, it's exciting. It's a whole new challenge for me. It's something I've never done. I've never really shied away from a new challenge. Obviously I love this university. I love this team. Love this program. So anyway, when I was asked by Jeff Charles, I got a phone call, kind of what they were thinking with Kevin wanting to really be a little bit more involved, being able to go to his son's football games. His son's in high school now, playing high school football, and kind of backing away, at least from the road schedule this season. Who knows what the future will hold, but when Jeff proposed it to me, it made a lot of sense for me. I'm always looking for a way to stay involved with the program, whether it's helping somebody with kick-in or radio show or anything, just to kind of keep me involved. And it was a great opportunity. I'm looking forward to it. And sure, I'm nervous. It's something I haven't done before. But I think we'll ultimately have some fun with it.
Andrew,
Andrew, go ahead,
Matt. Okay. Andrew, you obviously, everybody remembers you as a great punter at East Carolina, but also I'm absolutely out of my mind. You were a field goal kicker in '98, weren't you?
Yes, in 98, 99, and Semenza experienced some of this in 98. There was some really kind of sketchy field goal kicking that year.
Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up. The Alabama game.
Yeah,
I remember you had a big extra point miss in that game or something.
So we had a place kicker that missed 2 extra points that game. One of which was I was holding for I was the holder at the time, and one of them was actually blocked and returned for a 2-point conversion. So you talk about swings and points. That was a crazy swing and points. I still to this day believe I pushed the return man out of bounds about the 4-yard line.
Yeah, I remember that now.
But that after that, Coach Logan yanked. That was Brantley Rivers, and Brantley had to take a seat, and I came in and finished the game. There was a late field goal that put us within 1, and then Dave drove us down. And if I remember correctly, Matt, you might have a better memory, but I believe there was a sketchy penalty that was called late in the game that didn't go our way. And that's kind of how the game finished up.
Yeah, that's tough memories there. But see, what you guys don't know about Baze is he's a guy that prides himself on his athletic ability. So don't just call him a kicker. I think one of Andrew's favorite plays, correct me if I'm wrong here, Baze, a fake punt against West Virginia, correct?
It was not a fake punt against West Virginia, but it was let me think what year this was.
96, I want to say.
Maybe 97 in Morgantown. And I don't
96 in Morgantown.
Was that
we went 96 and 97.
Oh, we did?
Yeah, 96 was the 10-9 game, and then 97 was the season opener, 24-17.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think it was 97, but there was and Matt was on the punt team, so maybe I can pull up this video and see who broke down the blocking. But basically, a guy came free, and it was not a fake. I just pulled the punt up and just ran with it. And
was that the one where you dribbled it?
I accidentally dropped it,
Yeah.
and it just happened to bounce back up into my arms as I was running, and was able to convert first down, get some yardage. And
what did Coach Logan say?
Coach Logan, he just said, "Way to make a play." That's all he said. And then the very next play, Logan was all about sudden change, and he ran a reverse to Jason Nickel, or reverse to Lamont Chappelle, who threw a touchdown to Jason Nichols on a sudden change play right after that fourth down conversion.
It was an impressive run, Andrew. I'll give you that. I would have preferred to see you try to steamroll a defender.
Matt, I was afraid. All I wanted to do was get green grass and get out of bounds. That's all I wanted to do.
Yeah, like Matt Dodge, Matt.
Oh boy, yep, exactly. That's right. That's
I
right.
wasn't trying to run over anybody.
Andrew, you said you said you're going to bring a game film to see if Matt missed a block. Now that was being facetious, obviously, but just out of curiosity, because the lack of archive games in our that Brian, well, I probably should say on the air, but we don't have a lot of games archived in our tape library at ECU. Do you have a collection of your games? Because if you do, you might want to get up with Meador.
Yeah, I do. I've got a whole chest that my mom recorded. So fortunately, when I played, I'm from Maryland, and games were broadcast on Home Team Sports back in the DC area.
If you have a copy of the 90, what year did you start playing?
I was 96 to 99.
Okay, if you have a copy of the 97 Wake Forest game, or if your mom does, please let me know. I've been looking for a copy of that for years.
Okay, yeah, I'm sure I have it. They're all on VHS.
That's fine. I'll transfer it.
Yep.
Send it to me, and I'll send it back.
You got it.
Yeah, that game was that Wake Forest game was cool because Wake Forest, for people that don't know, speaking of history, is the first team we ever played in Ficklin Stadium at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then we played them again. I remember that game very well in '97. That was the first home game of '97, right? In my memory,
I believe it
was.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was.
Yeah, I remember. I was covering the Pirates during your time for Andrew and Matt. So that was a great time. We won a lot of football games when I was covering, and then I came back for the Mo era. So,
yeah.
Thankfully, it was the last season of Mo. But anyway, no doubt about it. A lot of great things. In fact, I know you want to ask Richard's question.
Yeah, Richard Allsbrook chiming in once again on Facebook, saying, Andrew, what's the mentality and your take on the ECU special teams after the NC State game?
Yeah, they've got work to do. I took a look. I know we're a lot of people want to point to the kickers, and we very easily can do that. They absolutely have to be better. But taking a look at the first play, the block punt by Luke, the formation that was set up, and Matt's familiar with this because he was on a punt block team. We're a punt return team. They ran a modified spread protection scheme, and what Matt and I are used to is a tight protection scheme with an up back or a personal protector down the pipe. And so what the Pirates ran is a modified spread. So they weren't as completely spread out, but they were wide enough in their gaps. And they had two up backs, and they were shifted right of center, almost outside the tackle box, the two up backs. And the reason why they were put there is it was the design for that rugby style. So Luke was going to shift out, and those two personal protectors were going to, take care of them. The problem is the left guard, unfortunately, looks like, missed. NC State overstacked on the right side, I believe 3 or 4 players, and kind of caught the Pirates in a mismatch. A lot of the protection was on the other side of the field, and the gap between the center and the left guard, was wide open. So once that was a jailbreak, there was no up back to protect because the up backs shifted. And it was unfortunately just a nightmare of a situation for the Pirates. So Luke could have done better on that play. He could have sensed the rush, and he could have gotten that ball off quicker. There's no doubt about that. That's a learning experience for him, and I'm sure the coaches will be on him for that. But overall, I don't know whether that protection scheme was a great fit at the time. I'm sure the coaches, somewhat regret that call. But they'll get it coached up, they'll get it fixed, and move on. As far as the kicking goes, the missed extra point, sure, the laces were out. Holder could do better on that one. But at the end of the day, the kickers practice those scenarios at practice. I mean, I believe we were practicing with the ball laying straight on the ground, not even end over end. And you just, from a kicker perspective, he probably got spooked seeing those laces, but again, he's a young kicker. He's going to figure this out and figure out a way how to practice and work that scenario a little bit better, so he's better prepared next time. And unfortunately, it didn't come through at the end of the game. I've lived that situation. I missed a late 50-yard field goal against Southern Miss on a Thursday night, and I think it was 1998. And that was not a good feeling walking into that locker room. So I know what he feels. Hopefully he's had his brothers in the locker room, wrapping their arms around him and giving him a little tough love at the same time. And I'm sure he's getting coached up this week, getting some good competition from the freshman kicker that's behind him, that I'm sure is getting an opportunity this week. So overall, special teams, not a great grade, but at the end of the day, we all know that was the difference in winning and losing a big game against NC State. So,
Andrew, I got to jump in here really quick and just I really wanted to get your perspective on this as a former kicker. Owen Daffer, obviously a very tough game, tough situation for him. When we played, Andrew, there was no social media, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what. And Dave, I don't know. It sounds like that's where you were about to go with this too.
You read Semenza, you and I. You read my mind. I was getting ready to say the same thing. So
yeah, and I'll tell you guys, I have no problem with criticizing on-field performance. This is big boy football. This is Division I football. People are going to be criticized. God knows I was criticized. Baze, you were criticized at times, probably. I worry about the kid. I worry about the young man because of the trash that we're reading on social media. And I think that's the biggest difference between today's game and from what we were 20, 25 years ago. Wanted to ask your thoughts as a kicker. I mean, how tough do you think it'll be for Daffer to bounce back mentally? And what would be sort of your practice style for the week to kind of get yourself back into a positive rhythm?
It's a good question. I mean, from a social, I can't even fathom, and you probably can't either. Like, we didn't play in a social media period, so I can't. I guess the scenario is he's lived his whole life in a social media world, so everything he's ever done, really, in high school and every other sport and getting involved with ECU, everything's exposed to social media. And, so these kids have a lot more exposure. And I think they're a little bit more conditioned to it than we think they are. That's the part I can't fathom, I guess, not living that. But, at some point, I'm sure you have to walk away from the social media. I know it's hard for this generation to do that. But in this scenario, I would think it would be healthy to, try to block out the noise. The noise would be coming from social media. So I'd try to incubate myself with my friends and my teammates and, going to class, trying to do the best I can to keep a low cover, to get myself through the week. And as far as preparation goes, it all goes into the film, as you know, and there's a lot that is learned when you watch that film. As painful as it is, some films we don't want to watch, and others we kind of have to watch and figure out what the heck went on. And I think for him, it was probably mostly between the ears, to be honest with you. He's a perfectly talented kid with a big leg. And I think deep down, he's just got to get back to his roots. I know personally, I struggled. There was a time that I was at the Senior Bowl, getting prepared for the NFL draft, and was invited to go down to the Senior Bowl. It was my first time to kick and punt in front of NFL owners and GMs and coaches. And I got down there, and that was the year they decided to make the change to K-balls. And K-ball meant that they were basically taking a brand new football out of a box and handing it to you and telling you, to punt it. There was no rub down of the wax. There was no breaking the seams. There was no basically breaking a football in. And so immediately I had not planned for that. And it was a learning curve because I had an awful week. I could not get right. And I remember, going back to my hotel after each session, and the people I would call or people that, I trained with or were coaches of mine. And I was reeling, trying to get them to get me back in the right frame of mind. And I don't think he's there. He's just had a bad day. But it kind of gives you a sense of where my mind was in a time that was tough. I think for him, he just, he goes back to the drawing board, gets back to the basics. Hopefully coach is putting a little competition to him with the freshman kicker. And that can actually be a healthy thing. That can get his mind off of everything else. And, sometimes it's good to have a strong competitive person next to you to bring your game along. So hopefully that's what's going on. But I'm not there at practice. I don't know, but Matt, that's kind of how I do it.
Andrew, you mentioned practice, and Owen, a lot of what's going on with him probably being between the years. If you were listening to the ODU guy, Harry, he mentioned that they led the nation in block kicks last year. Obviously, coaching staff's aware of that. That adds even more pressure to special teams preparation this week after a bad week of special teams. Does it get to be a point? I mean, do you point that out to the players if you're the coaching staff? I mean, you show it on film, obviously, how they can block kicks and how good they are. You got to be prepared for it. But do you point out they love the nation and block kicks? Can there get to be a point where you make a thing a thing? Sometimes a thing ain't a thing until you make it a thing. It gets in between your ears, and something that was, just correctable by practice and coaching can become mental crap. Is there a point as players and as a coaching staff where you can put too much emphasis on something and make something a thing? You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. But at the end of the day, a big component of kicking or any position, even the position that Matt played, there's mental toughness. And, you either have it or you don't have it. And that's imperative for that position. And, as far as whether you tell somebody that these guys are really good at doing something that's going to mess your mind up, I think what happens in that scenario, I played against University of Miami twice, and I played against Virginia Tech, I don't know, 2 or 3 times. And both of those schools were notorious for blocking punts and blocking kicks. And I can tell you that things, and Matt experienced this as well, things ratcheted up that week that we're playing those teams, especially on the special team side, because it's coming. So you have to prepare for it. If you do not prepare for it, you're going to have another disaster like we had early in the game against NC State. Everyone has to know, everyone has to be on board. When you go into the meeting and you watch game film, it sticks out like a sore thumb. If a team is talented at blocking kicks, you're going to see it in team meeting, and everyone's going to be like, oh boy, here we go. And so that's the way you got to ratchet up practice. And then, what we did, or what Coach Logan did, is he would build, if we're playing University of Miami or we're playing Virginia Tech, Coach Logan would build the strongest pump block unit he could build off of our roster to compete against our punt team. So he would put the best cornerbacks, the fastest cornerbacks, the strongest linebackers. He would do whatever he could to try to mimic what we were about to see. And it paid off, because in those games, you know, I got to go back, maybe in Miami in '99, I had a punt blocked. It was kind of gangbusters in that game. But for the most part, against all, you know, 4 or 5 times we played those teams, we performed fairly well. But if you don't practice it, you don't prepare for it, you're just you're asking for trouble. But to your point, it is a kind of fine line how you handle the kicker, but there's no way to hide it. And you know, he kind of has to overcome some of the mental toughness issues.
Let's take a look at some of the other aspects of special teams. You talked about the block punt. You talked about the missed PAT, and then also, you know, the field goal there at the end of the game, perhaps. But talk about Luke Larson, what you saw from him on the whole. He did have a couple of solid punts on Saturday. One, I think, was about 46 with pretty good hang time, and then the other one was between 55 and 60. I think it resulted in a touchback.
Yeah, that was the best ball he had of the day, was that 55-yard punt that resulted in a touchback. That ball showed me that just from a classic punting style, he should be able to get the job done. He's got a heck of a leg. I mean, he's got, you know, I could clearly see what coaches have been seeing in him. He's got a very big leg. You know, it seemed as though maybe he had some nerves, especially after a block. He wasn't getting great hang time with his kind of his rollout rugby style punt. You want to see a little bit more hang time on that. They did have some returns. So all in all, I mean, it wasn't a super great showing. You never want to, you know, a scenario where you've got a field punt and have an opportunity to get your team inside the 20. I know he wants to have that one back, but you know, he'll look to bounce back. And I'm curious to see if he sticks with that rugby style punting, whether he'll be able to get some hang time on the ball, because they'll need it for sure.
And also, given that's what you did, I know you watched that very closely. And one of the things that kind of surprised me there on that final drive, you know, we just badly missed the PAT. You know, the operation, not the kicks necessarily, but just the operation as a whole had been fairly shaky all day, because we nearly missed the PAT earlier down at the opposite end of the field. So I was a little surprised when we got to the 33-yard line with 1:45 left, 1st and 10, that we were quite as conservative as we were. I thought we might, you know, in addition to trying to get as close as you could, you know, maybe even score the touchdown.
Yeah, they told me that Houston had a lot of faith in Daffer in that situation, because, you know, when I thought that Keaton Mitchell had streaked further down the sideline than where he was, and that ball got called back, and next thing you know, they're you know, kind of playing for a field goal, you know, 50-yard field goal. At that time, I was scratching my head as to whether that was the right scenario. They had been moving the ball. It seemed like NC State were on their heels, and it was an opportunity to make a field goal a little bit easier for him, given what had just happened on the extra point. So I don't know, has Mike Houston spoken to that in any of his press conferences as far as wanting what
he
he
was asked about it? He and Donnie Kirkpatrick on the Brian Bailey show yesterday on Pirate Radio, and he said that, or they said that that was the scenario that they were aiming for. And but the more I thought about it, you know, it wasn't necessarily even the fact that Owen had missed the PAT. It's just the whole operation was off, and we were playing for a 40 to 50-yard field goal, depending on what happened there on that third down play, and or you know, prior to that third down play. And I thought, and given the way we had protected Holton all day, he hadn't been sacked, I thought there were some things we could do that were fairly low risk, you know, where we could try to score the touchdown without jeopardizing a field goal opportunity.
Yeah, no question. And I think that, if you recall, I think NC State did us a favor, because that was going to be a hot field goal. We were running in with no timeouts left and basically no time left on the clock to be able to do a huddle. So the field goal team had rushed in and had barely gotten set before time was running out, and NC State called a timeout. And I remember thinking during that stretch that they might have just done him a favor, as far as being able to, now he can go through his routine. And, but ultimately I believe the ice worked.
Now, Andrew, as a kicker, do you think that, had it just been, no timeout and he had to get the kickoff without going through his routine, that given the day that he had up to that point with a near miss and then missing a PAT, that perhaps would have been even better?
I think honestly, those scenarios, and you practice those as well. Most of the time you finish practice with that type of scenario, and a lot of times it works out just right. And the reason why it works out just right is because you're not thinking about it. All you're worried about is, oh shoot, get the ball off. Try to get the ball off, and you're not overthinking it. And so he probably would have had a better shot making it, all things considered. I think Doran made a good call there to call a timeout, and the rest is history.
Andrew, one of the questions I've heard other fans talk about, and I knew you were coming on tonight. I was about to forget to ask you, but my old brain. But one of the things that worried me was the fact that he'd missed the extra point. But then when I was looking at where he was set up, is there my only I don't know if it's really criticism because I'm not a Division I football coach, but it just seems like to me that we didn't set him up to win by that angle was really, maybe it's me. I'm not a kicker, and I know Bubba's been a punter, but do you guys think that we could have done a better job of setting him up for the angle?
That's easier said than done. And
yeah, I know.
And the reason I was going ahead and chiming in right quick, I'll let Andrew speak about this, but Donnie Kirkpatrick addressed that as well. He said that that's what they were aiming to do, and NC State knew that, so they brought a stunt where that forced Holton to, instead of quarterback draw that was more to the middle, it forced him to go to the left, and then he just couldn't get it back, more in between the hashes.
Yeah, if he'd have picked up the first down there, we might have been able to do it on one more play than spike it. But he was 2 yards short of the first down, a yard short.
It was close. Yeah.
Yeah, and some kickers are real funky on where they prefer the ball. Some guys have a tail to their kick or a slight hook to their kick, and if you give them a choice, they might actually prefer to be on a left or right hash and not want to be in the middle just because of the way that their ball flies. So that would really be a question for Owen, as far as where he would, in a perfect scenario where he would actually prefer the ball.
You guys remember where that Navy kick came from? In my head, it was on the left hash. Does that sound right to y'all?
I can't remember.
I'll double check that, Kyle. I wanted to say it was more middle to middle right, or maybe even right, but I'll
Okay.
double check that.
I could be remembering wrong.
Yeah.
So, Baze, I wanted to ask you, obviously an emotional game last week against NC State, really, really tough loss. What are your thoughts on the bounce back performance this week against ODU? We're a 12-point favorite. I was a little surprised by the line. I didn't think it would be quite that high, but what are your thoughts on the resiliency of this team and just their ability to bounce back and put in a strong performance this week?
I was so pleasantly surprised. I told some friends at a tailgate that I was really anxious. I'm not rarely ever anxious before a game, but I was anxious before that one because they played so well last year to finish the season, and I knew NC State was going to be a tough challenge. And anytime you have a top 15, 13 ranked team come in the stadium, you expect great football. And I just did not know where this team was going to fall against top talent. And I was pleasantly surprised in the first half how things played out. In the second half, I could not believe how well the defense played. They played lights out. They created turnovers. They got 2 goal line stances. The fans were awesome. It was a great environment. Matt, you can appreciate this. What did Coach Logan tell us all the time? When you're training and you're playing to win on the last play of the game. That's what our mindset was for every single game. It was in our brain. You're gonna win on the last play of the game. So buckle up and be prepared. And I'm very pleased with how Mike Houston has developed this team. Even going back to last season, they're shutting teams out in the fourth quarter. They ultimately, I don't know what the results are with that, but teams are not scoring points in the fourth quarter lately. And that's a trend that started last year. It's a positive trend. It continued in this game. And that's a mindset. And that is a beautiful thing to see when you're watching a football team, because they're committed, and they're committed all the way to the end. And you guys remember just a few years ago, it was a completely different deal. There was no mindset. It was just bad football and bad conditioning, and guys weren't ready. It was a different thing. And it's great to see. And I don't want to get ahead of myself after one game, but it's really good to see a trend, that when we can fly that no quarter flag in the fourth quarter, that, when we were flying it 4 years ago and you're just cringing because we're down by so much and we're flying a no quarter flag.
63-17.
Yeah. And
the Virginia Tech. Yeah.
And now we have a chance, and now there's a purpose to flying it. And, the team is embracing a different effort and mindset, which I think is pretty refreshing. Matt, do you have the same sentiment on that?
Oh, there's no doubt about it. I mean, the difference is night and day. And, Andrew, just from our conversations over the years, we text quite a bit. And, Mike Houston, this was a complete overhaul job. I mean, this was not a situation where he was inheriting much, if anything, of a football team. I mean, this was a complete overhaul, 100%. And he's done a great job year over year, elevating the talent of the team and getting us into a better position. And now all of a sudden you're watching these games, you're watching that game against East State and you're saying, wow, we're just as physical in the trenches. We have size, we have some depth now. And you can see it. I mean, these guys play very hard. It's apparent. It's very apparent that these guys play extremely hard for Blake Harrell on that defense. But I think more than anything, guys, I think the scheme that we run defensively is a perfect fit for East Carolina. It's aggressive. It's multiple. You're bringing pressure from all over the place. So I think we have a really good situation. And I think we have the perfect D coordinator, to answer your question.
No doubt.
The way the Pirates are playing defense, and we'll go to a clip here in a moment. One of the best goal line stands in quite some time. And before we do that, and elaborate a little bit more on what Andrew was saying as far as that second half performance, in addition to shutting the Wolfpack out, 121 total yards in the second half for NC State, and just 25 of those in the fourth quarter. And NC State had a couple of opportunities to tack on to the lead and make it a 2-score game, but the Pirates stood tall there at the goal line, forcing a turnover, as well as stopping the Wolfpack on 4 straight plays at or inside the 1-yard line. And let's take a look at that 4th and 1 play. This is compliments of John Smith with 7 cities shot talk, no quarter. Let's take a look at that right now.
Great stuff there. That never gets old. I tell you what, that was impressive. But Andrew, the very fact of one thing I want to mention, having you and Semenzo on the same time together, your mindset, that's what I've been telling everybody. The mindset of this team reminds me from the coaching staff, everything. I know it's not quite the same, and it's not fair to compare eras, but for the Logan era and the Houston era, one thing I can say, there's like a swagger that's back with this team that we haven't had in a long time. Maybe we didn't even have really. We had a little bit in the, maybe you could argue, in the rough era, 13 and 14, somewhere around there. But
I think we had swagger. I think the swagger went away with when we brought in Scotty Montgomery, who the only thing swagger about him is his tie with his zip up pullover. I've never seen a grown man. I've never seen anybody just you know what I'm going to wear today, and I'm going to wear it constantly. I'm going to put on a 3/4 zip pullover and wear it with a shirt and tie. He should have been fired for that. But no, Dave. We had swagger under Ruffin and Lincoln and Skip. I mean, Scotty took the swagger away. The swagger's just back now.
But with that swagger, you know, I've made this comment to several guys.
What about Jimmy Swagger?
Yeah. But I made this comment to you, Kyle, as well as, you know, Johnny Gardner and several others. I said, how long has it been, you know, since, you know, a situation like that, less than 5 minutes or right around 5 minutes to go in the game, you miss a PAT, and then you feel so confident the way the defense is playing that you're going to, with 2 timeouts, get the ball back. It's just a matter of if you're going to be able to go win it once you get the ball back.
In terms of that kind of defense, 09.
Yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me a little bit of the defensive performance when we beat Tech in Charlotte in a season opener. Kyle, was that the game?
08, yeah.
2008.
Yeah, 08, yep.
Yeah, I mean,
you had holding Pat White in West Virginia 3 points the following week.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of block punts, T.J. Lee, right? In 2008.
Yeah, T.J. Lee blocked it and picked it up and ran it back against Virginia Tech. Yep.
Yeah, so we've talked about it a lot. Andrew, what about this week? Getting your thoughts on what do we have to do to win this game with Old Dominion? What do you see that from your former players' eyes that maybe we wouldn't see?
I just hope they can get the run going a little bit. You know, that obviously they're facing a pretty tough Wolfpack defense, stout linebackers, couldn't really get loose between the tackles. I think that Mike Houston will try to do anything possible to get that going, to open some things up. What I did love seeing was C.J. Johnson in the slot. I think that is his position in this offense. And he caught 6 balls for 90 yards.
Yeah.
He should have caught 12 balls. He probably could have been targeted more than double whatever he was, because it was a crazy mismatch. So I know he's got a lot of, kind of earn back that trust on that roster. And it seems like he's well on his way to get that going. I'd also like to see him involved from the slot in the rush game. I think he'd be a great offensive threat to be able to block from the wide receiver slot. So I'd like to see the defense continue the momentum that they started late in the game against NC State. And I'd like to see a big crowd. I think the Pirate faithful came out strong. I think that continues this week against ODU, and I'm looking for a big week from them.
It's been great. Looking forward to having you on Play 5 Sports with the Pirate Sports Radio Network, and that's going to be fantastic. You're going to start. Will that be October 1st? That game?
Yeah, whatever the first away game is. What's the first away game?
USF.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to spend some time up in the booth with Kevin and Jeff, really observing. I don't know how much interaction I'll have or whether I'll have any game day opportunities. But, I'm looking forward to learning from them. Looking forward to learning from you guys. If you guys have anything to share with me to help me with the new challenge, I'd love it.
I just simply say to bring it like Semenza does. Tell honestly how you feel, because if it's sunshine outside, you can't say it's raining, or if it's raining, you can't say it's sunshine. And as much as we love the Pirates, if it's a bad play, it's a bad play. I mean, I know Semenza may get a little bit too much, maybe for the the broadcast. I don't know. I would love to listen to him, but maybe a little less Semenza.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Baze is a lot more level-headed than I am. So he's going to do great. I have no doubts. You're going to do a great job, man. I'm proud of you. I'm happy for you. They found the right guy for sure. So it's going to go well. Hey, my advice would just be trust your instincts, man. Just be yourself and trust your instincts. I think it's going to go great. Looking forward to hearing it.
Hey, Baze, I can hear you need to have a guest appearance from Semenza, because if there's a bad play call, he's going to say, "That was brutal." I can hear it right now.
Well, if you don't do a good job, I'm going to give you a blindside hit next time I see you. So, it's all good.
That sounds good.
Andrew, you could do like Dave calling a game. Just blame everything on the referees.
There you go.
Not everything. I didn't blame special teams on the refs this week. I can tell you that right now. Andrew, man, good luck to you. Thank you so much, Hall of Famer. Appreciate everything you did for the Pirates. Looking forward to hearing you. I'm a nerd. I listen to the games and actually watch the games at the same time. So look forward to hearing the call with my good friends Jeff Charles and Kevin.
Well, I appreciate it, guys. This is awesome. Keep it rolling, and until next time, we'll talk.
All right, appreciate
you.
All
right, Baze.
Right. Take care, brother. Bye-bye. That was fantastic. Appreciate it, Andrew. By the way, guys, I know we're all tired, but can we talk a few minutes, have a little bit of a roundtable? I'm exhausted, but I know that there was a response today about we talked a long time, and we got a lot of street cred, by the way, publicly and privately. I'm hearing about our conversation on the playback about the concession stand. Did you guys get a chance to hear JJ McGlam on Pirate Radio, and then the 4:00 hour today in Greenville, and then we had John Gilbert on 94.3 The Game this afternoon?
I heard Gilbert on 94.3, missed the JJ McGlam interview. Then I read the statement from Aramark on that somebody posted on Hoist Colors. I thought Gilbert seemed very angry about what happened with the concession stands. Sounds like he's very angry at Aramark and whoever's in charge of that for East Carolina down there. So I will give him credit for that. He said some other things in the interview that I did not agree with that we can get into if you want to. But I did like he seems like he wants to get it fixed. He's determined to get it fixed. He seems like he knows he's taking a lot of blame for it. And so he's feeling the pressure. The statement from Aramark says they're going to get it fixed. ECU says all fans. So if you hadn't heard this yet, you're just hearing it now. You can bring 2 bottles of water in with you per person starting this week. And it sounds like Aramark is going to get us some of those water monsters, or they said water refill stations. So that looks like something. I don't know if that'll be in place this weekend or not, but it looks like something they're going to do. They also, if you read the statement from Aramark, said they're going to work on getting lines just for beverages only, non-alcoholic beverages, and having more mobile kitchens. Again, I don't know if that'll happen this week or not, or if it'll be, who knows, Campbell game before it happens. But sounds like the problems are going to be addressed. Dave, you had a good idea of what you thought Bank of America Stadium with the souvenir cup for $10 and unlimited refills with fountains throughout the stadium. I think that's something we should definitely look into. And the student situation, according to Gilbert, was not a card scanner issue. It was a situation where students that were supposed to be sitting, I guess, in the north side outside of the boneyard, because they sold out the boneyard, were going into the boneyard. So they told them, if you leave the boneyard, you can't come back in, because we don't know if you're supposed to be here or in the other section. I think that's ridiculous also. I don't know. You can't tell somebody they can't go get a water or take a piss. So that's got to be handled differently next time too. My thing is, what you do when you see somebody jumping from one section to another, you find that person immediately, you take them out in handcuffs. If they're jumping over a rail to get from that student section into the boneyard. So get rid of that one student. Go ahead and make an example out of one as soon as he does it the first time, and other people won't do it. So that's, to me, is how you handle that problem, rather than don't punish the group, don't punish the majority because of the minority. Yeah. It needs to be handled differently.
And they could also, I mean, what else can you do, Semenza and Bubba and Kyle?
Well, it won't be a problem. Look, we're not going to have that kind of student turnout for another game. So, unfortunately, just being honest, unless, late in the season we're undefeated, or we wouldn't be undefeated, but you know what I mean. Unless we're working on a Peach Bowl season, we probably won't have that kind of attendance for another student attendance for another game.
Yeah. So for me, I would just simply say that I appreciate JJ McLam and John Gilbert coming on. I thought that JJ McLam actually took calls on Pirate Radio, so I give him major props. He owned it. John Gilbert owned it. I'll tell you where my confidence is not against the administration, and I know I'm critical at times, but I'm also fair to them when I feel like that it's not all them. And I know Bubba and I are on the thing of that. It's like Aramark. Okay, here's my thing. Wow, the Wolfpack podcast. There you go, Robert. My thing is this. Okay?
Why are you listening to the Wolfpack podcast, Robert?
Maybe he wants to hear what the enemy's saying. I don't know. Yeah. But my personal thing is that Aramark has been there for years. They're a national company. We turned out, and I'll be honest, and I'm not saying this directly to the administration.
Dave, just before you even say anything else, I want to point this out. Then I'll let you talk. I don't know if you were here yet when Harry said that Aramark runs their concessions also, and they ran out of water during the Old Dominion game up there Friday night.
No, I didn't hear that. But my thing is this: Gilbert and McLam coming on, they did what leaders to do. I'll give them credit. My issue is not with Gilbert, Ryan Robinson, JJ McLam. I actually like them personally. My problem is with Aramark. And I will say this, and my grandfather used to say all the time, business is business. And the fact of the matter is, there's no excuse when you know that it's going to be 89 degrees. It's almost, you might as well say 90 degrees plus real field. There's no excuse not to have water. They should have had, my God, we have the Menzies family. You mean to tell me we couldn't have trucks of water knowing there's going to be 51,711 people? They knew it was going to be a potential sellout. And Aramark failed miserably. And so what I say to Aramark is, this is not the first time this has happened. Gilbert made a great point. It's not like that they thought 30,000 people were going to come and 50,000. For me personally, Aramark needs to say, hey, you either get this right or you're not going to have the contract anymore. We have lawyers. We'll take you to court. If that's what we have to do, just like Cecil Staten said one time, sue me. Because guess what? The fans would their customers. And I have a 65-inch TV right here in this living room. I don't have to wait in line for a bathroom. I don't have to wait in line for water, any kind of beverage I want. I can have it and be back with, my God, those college football games take forever for the commercial breaks. So you can easily go to the bathroom, take a nap, and you haven't missed a play. But for me personally, Aramark is the problem. And if they can't get it together, then they need to be tossed. And sorry, you need to be fired. That's the way I feel about it. Heads need to roll. It makes no sense that we look like a bunch of rednecks trying to run something when we can do a much better job. And we've given the ideas. We've given the ideas of
what in the world?
Is that Doug Llewellyn? Is that Doug Llewellyn?
Yeah.
What is?
Don't get even. Take them
to court.
Yeah, there you go.
I was like, why is Doug Llewellyn up there? You take him to court.
And why do we know that name, more importantly? Why do we know?
Because we all grew up in the 80s. Because we all grew up in the 80s.
You don't take the law in your hands.
Doug Llewellyn?
You take him to court. I believe he was a guest on Pirate Radio several years back.
He was. He was living he retired in Asheville.
Yeah. There you go. There's Doug again. Don't take the law into your own hands. You take them to court.
Yeah, that's what it was.
I'm sorry, but I know people sent a group text earlier this morning. They have good lawyers. Well, guess what? We do too. We're East Carolina.
Well, here's one thing I would do if I was East Carolina with Aramark, and I think this makes a lot of sense. Starting this week, my dog wants to play. I'm going to take the toy away from her. So I should start barking at me probably. Look. let's say we have 40,000 people this Saturday. That'd be great. 2 people, each person can bring in 2 bottles of water. What's a bottle of water cost now? $4, $5?
Yeah.
I think that money. I think you should go ahead and say everybody's bringing in. Do the math. For 40,000 people bringing in 2 bottles of water each, $5 a bottle, and I think Airmark should have to give us that money. Because the reason that they changed the policy is because Airmark.
They'd already changed, but they already had that, didn't they? Didn't they
No,
already have
no,
that?
that's effective that's effective this Saturday. From what it sounds like to me, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, maybe I am wrong. It was not made public. If you were allowed to bring in 2 bottles of water prior to this Saturday,
they didn't do a good job of communicating that.
They damn sure didn't want you to know it, and now they do.
In the past, and you've always seen Chris Sutton from the ECU Police Department, he'd go on various stations and so forth, and just talk about the heat plan is in effect, and the heat plan, these are the details. You can bring in, 1 bottle of water, 2 bottles of water, whatever.
Well, it's it's a 6:00 game. It really heat shouldn't be an issue this week, but because of
it's still going to be 86 degrees at kickoff.
Hey, sun's going to be going down. It won't be bad, but nonetheless, the reason this is an issue and the reason that it's being pushed that bring in 2 bottles of water, and you bet your ass everybody's going to do it too, is because Airmark, not having enough water there. And I'm like you, Dave. If Airmark can't do it, get somebody else to do it. I know we've in the past allowed limited space to be rented out for Smash Waffles. Chick-fil-A has had booths there in the past. I don't know if that's something we're still doing. It would be cool to me is if just the whole under the stadium, the concourse was filled up with nothing but food trucks. How cool would that be? There's a lot of food trucks in Greenville now, and you can rent those spaces out to those food trucks, and it would be a lot better food than some of that crap that Airmark provides.
Well, that's the one thing that I was going to say, guys, is that, they were talking about Airmark, and we need Gilbert said, the one thing I disagree with him on is he saw that you need the infrastructure of the dining halls. Well, if you have those places that here's the deal. Another thing, and I'm not knocking civic groups because obviously I know that's how they make some of their money. Airmark runs it and they give a percentage of the people working there. But the bottom line is that we can't look like a bunch of buffoons when we have 51,000 people, the state game. There's a lot of other big games we have coming up and that'll probably be on national television.
Well, just think about how it would enhance the fan experience if you had all these cool food trucks down there where, you had Chinese, you had barbecue, you had, there's all kinds of neat food trucks. That's a big thing now. And you had that whole concourse full of, Eastern North Carolina owned food trucks with every kind of cuisine you can think of. How much that would enhance the fan experience. I mean, that really does add a lot. Yeah. Particularly if we're starting to get good and we're blowing people out, and you can actually really go down there and grab something and enjoy it.
No doubt. That's a great idea. And I mean, listen, we have so much going against us as a program, as a athletic, complex. I mean, there's so much going against us financially. We can't afford to lose people over things like this that we can actually control.
Amen, brother.
Water, food, make it a great fan experience. And, you just hope that there's people that, weren't turned off to the point where they're not going to come back to another game this year.
Right. I had another quick point, Bubba, to make for you guys too, is the very fact that one of the things I've been preaching since 2014, maybe 13, is to wire that damn stadium, put a network in there. The point of sale system, guys, it wasn't that it actually went out as much as that it was so slow. And guess why it was slow? What does the point of sale system need? Wait for it. It needs, today is age, it needs the internet. So everything we do, it's like having a house without a foundation. We have to have the infrastructure for 51,000 people. And the problem we have is we've got so complacent because we kept losing. And that was one thing that a person, I won't name his name, one of our friends that Bubba and I know, said today, guys, is that Mo had the solution for it. You just keep losing, and then nobody shows up, so you don't have to worry about having lines or to do that. And seriously, we haven't had that kind of crowd in 6 years. So no matter, we've had the COVID year, we've had the Mo years. We finally started to get things turned around last year, where we didn't have to worry about COVID and having fans. But the reality is, they were this isn't something that just happened for one game. This has been going on for a while, and again, we've got, instead of having amateurs running concessions, no offense to them, we need to have professional people running those, running the concession stand. And as much as people hate me for saying that, I tell you what we need to do: have the professionals, and then we'll have a list of people will donate the money, and you'll still get your money, and you won't have to show up to the games, and we'll have professionals run those concession stands. If they get mad at me, so be it. But I think the people are mad that they had to wait in line and long lines for all the problems we have. But the internet is something that, at one time, I think it was like a $10 million, $14 million. It's not somewhere in that range. It's not cheap, but guys, the in-game experience, like if I want to text somebody like you guys, if you want to call someone, there's it's terrible. It's really terrible. So, but anyway, I won't ramble on, but that's something that I've been very upset about, is for 8 or 9 years now, is the internet.
Yeah, Dave, kind of shifting gears as we wrap things up here, and taking a look at some of our upcoming content, and then also some of the content we've had come out in the last couple days. Last night, Absolute Empowerment, episode 2, with Coach Jeff Connors. He caught up with Steve Logan, and that has received a huge response, as I figured it would. And definitely go to our YouTube channel and check that out. Obviously, tonight you've been watching the Pirate Preview. Tomorrow night we'll have Pirate Breakdown with Sutton Young. That's at 7 o'clock. And then right around 8 o'clock we'll have Sonny and Semenza. And I'll let Matt touch on that here in just a moment, as they'll have their Week 2 picks, as well as taking a look back at what transpired in Week 1 and how their picks went. On Thursday, we'll have the Inside Slant, taking a look at Week 2 of college football. And some of the bigger games this week, you have Pitt and Tennessee, and that's a big matchup. You also have within the American, you have Houston taking on Texas Tech with a nice out of conference opportunity. Even though the Cougars are moving on to the Big 12 next season, and then you have Alabama and Texas, and the Crimson Tide. And they are a large favorite in that game, but that's still a somewhat intriguing matchup. You have South Carolina headed to Arkansas, Kentucky, Florida, with Florida coming off that upset win over a top 10 foe, Billy Napier's debut, as they took down the Utah Utes, and they have Kentucky coming into the Swamp. So those are some of the matchups I'm sure they'll talk about. And then you have Baylor, the 10th ranked Baylor Bears, taking on the 25th ranked BYU Cougars. And then on Friday, we'll have the second episode of A Pirate's Life for Me. I caught up with Pat Lane, actually recorded that interview on Tuesday afternoon. And, a lot of folks will recognize on the message boards the name Factoid, and that is Pat Lane's handle, if you will. And he's a pirate for going back to the 60s, and a very loyal supporter of the program with his wife, Lynn, and appreciate everything they do, not only financially, but, giving of their time for various committees and so forth. A lot of excellent perspective in that interview. And that's an interview that, conversation that could have gone on a long time. It was about 35 or 40 minutes. And I told him we'll certainly have him back to talk East Carolina athletics down the road.
Yeah, I was very happy that you did that, Bubba. I know he's a great pirate, and the one last week with John Casazza was very good as well. First quarterback, that was the first team in 71 to beat NC State. So if you haven't heard that, it's great. That man, that Logan, we always joke about podcast gold, but that Logan Connors from last night was epic. So if you haven't had a chance, check it out. And before we go, I want to thank our sponsors too, by the way, if we can get a chance, and we'll get out of here. Want to thank, of course, Porky's Backyard Barbecue. I want to thank Mark and his brother Terry, his wife Betsy. It's a family business, and they are great people. Porky's Backyard Barbecue is it's an old I was going to say Chick-fil-A, God, Captain D's. It's in front of the old Walmart, was what I was trying to say. And that's at 805 East Boulevard in Williamston. Dine in, takeout. You can do it. They have a drive-through, 252-661-0337. They're open daily 11 to 8. And they're going to be sponsoring our tailgate all season long. In fact, come by and see us Saturday afternoon. We'll probably be there about 3 o'clock or so. We have ball games in Williamston that we have to take.
And if you mention the name Dave Richmond, you eat for free.
That's right.
There you go.
That's right, for sure. So thanks to Porky's. I also want to get pgxgloves.com. I want to thank Mark Menikazi and Kyle. Take it away. That's your baby.
PGXgloves.com. Go to PGXgloves.com. Get yourself some gloves for you or your kids. Maybe you play golf and you want to look super sporty and stand out on the golf course. Go get you some cool golf gloves. They got gloves if your kids play baseball, softball. Obviously, it's football season. So for whatever your sporty gloves needs, don't just get your run-of-the-mill Nike crap. Go to PGXgloves.com. Get something customized. Promo code ECU. Save yourself 25% off your purchase.
And of course, LNK Custom Homes. I want to give a shout out to Kevin Walker. KK is one of the best ever to play and put on the purple and gold. He's an amazing athlete. I'm sure he could probably still play today. Kevin KK Walker. He's a licensed general contractor at LNK Custom Homes. Call Kev at 336-688-8461. He is, of course, that's the title sponsor of our Pirate Playback on Sunday nights at 7 o'clock. Kev, thank you so much. Kevin Walker, KK, you're the man. We appreciate you. And again, if I could just win that Powerball, Bubba, the Mega Millions, you know who I'm going to call. Besides you guys, my buddies on the Sports Objective, I'm going to call Kevin to get my house remodeled. I've got some projects that he can definitely help out for sure.
Awesome. I'm going to get him to build me a house, somewhere in the mountains when I win the lottery.
There you go. Hey, Bubba, I know that you had the opportunity to talk to Ricky Rahne, right?
Yeah, on Monday afternoon, or actually late morning, the Sunbelt Conference had their weekly Zoom teleconference, if you will, and I took part in that for Coach Rahne. It was only like 7 or 8 minutes. Got a couple questions in, asking about the Pirate defense, his thought on Blake Harrell's unit and the way they performed against NC State, as well as Holt Naylor's and some of the offensive playmakers, and specifically Keaton Mitchell. But he went on to talk about our receivers, and very impressed with them, and some tremendous size. And then also he's very impressed with our offensive line, and specifically, Avery Jones. He said, hey, and he didn't call him by name. He said, but the center, and he said he's a stud, or something to that effect. But let's go ahead and go to those comments in that brief 7-minute press conference with Old Dominion head coach, and I guess he's technically in his 3rd season, but just his 2nd football season, because the Monarchs did not play football in 2020. And let's go to that right now with ODU's Ricky Rahne.
Ricky Rahne, head coach of Old Dominion. If you have a question for Coach, please use the reactions to raise your hand to let us know, and we'll call on you. Coach, thank you very much for joining us today. Would you mind starting us off with the opening statement?
Yeah, had a great win. Very excited for our community and how they came out and supported us in a sellout crowd. And I thought the entire Hampton Roads community came together and provided a pretty special atmosphere for both teams. So we played hard. I thought we played an opponent that also played hard, and so it was a very physical game. And thought it was, a pretty special football game, and was happy to be able to come out on the right side of it.
Appreciate that, Coach. And again, I know we have some media members here jump in, so just raise your hand and we'll call on you. Luke, please go ahead.
How about the performance from the defense? Came away with 4 interceptions in that one.
Yeah, something we've really been working on, is generating more turnovers. And, I was able to see it all camp, our guys had really started making better plays on the football, and obviously we did it in this one. I thought there was a couple other ones that we actually could have had. Beyond that, Coach Seiler did an unbelievable job of getting guys in the right position and able to make plays. But it was a pretty special deal that when you generate 4 turnovers and also score a special teams touchdown, that's usually going to lead to a pretty good game.
You're talking about your defense. If you would talk about East Carolina's defense, what you've had the opportunity to dive into so far, the way they played against NC State.
Yeah, I thought they played very, very well. They play with a lot of passion. They run around. They've got some athletic guys that can make some plays. Their field corner is a very, very good football player. I think they do a nice job of how their scheme is set up, and you can tell that they are very well coached based on, you can really see how things fit together. And so I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a really good challenge for us. But they definitely are a team that, runs and plays physical and gets to the football.
All right, thank you, Bubba. Our next questions come from Justin Zimmer. Justin, if you want to unmute, you can go ahead.
All right, Coach. Talk about the win on Friday night. That has to be a big statement win for you guys and your program as you guys are starting to build after not playing football in 2020 and get a big win to start off the 22 season. How big is this for your momentum going forward this year?
Well, I think we talk a lot about going 1-0 each and every week, each and every play, each and every series. And this just gives us another opportunity to go 1-0 this week. When you win a game like that, the next game is huge because you put yourself in a position to make that game big. If you don't come out on top, well, then we all know that we need to win to stop the slide. So I don't think it's any bigger or any smaller than any win that we've had since we've been here. And that's no disrespect to Coach Pry and his program. Obviously, when you beat an in-state opponent, it's awesome. But we're lucky that we play in the Sun Belt Conference where almost every single one of our games is a regional game. And a lot of our non-conference games are also 4 regional games. So all these games are huge for us in recruiting.
Thank you. Our next questions come from Sam. Sam, please go ahead.
Ricky, you've talked a little bit already about the, playing an in-state game, and you've got a couple more on the schedule. You kind of the tour of Virginia here. What does having those games on the schedule mean for you guys and then for the fan base as well? Obviously had a sold-out crowd this week.
I think our fans can look at each and every game and see the importance of it, not only to our team, but to them, right? They've got people in their neighborhoods who cheer for these teams. They've got people at work who are going to, wear the opposite team's colors and things like that. So it's an awesome thing. To me, this is what college football is all about. This is what it should be about. And Commissioner Gill's done an unbelievable job of setting this up in our own conference. And then we kind of double down with our non-conference games. So it's an awesome deal. We get to play the 4 other FBS teams from Virginia this year. And then you just look at it, and East Carolina is about 2 hours away from us, unless I'm driving. It's about an hour and a half. So I think that it's a pretty awesome deal to be able to play these teams that you're recruiting against all the time, and it just creates more passion in each one of these games, not only from our fans but also our players as well.
Thank you, Sam. Bubba, I saw your hand go back up. If you want to go ahead.
Coach Rahne, if you would talk about what you've seen out of the East Carolina offense, obviously a veteran quarterback in Holton Ahlers, and then also several explosive playmakers like Keith Mitchell.
I tell you, I played quarterback, and this guy, he knows how to play. He is a great player. And he's physical. He can run physical with the ball. He knows exactly where his protection is set. He knows when to get the ball out on time. He knows where to go with the ball versus man coverage. He can find holes in zone. He can create time. You just watch. He can layer the football over second level defenders and before the third level. He does some unbelievable things. He is a very, very, very good football player. It's going to be a major challenge for our defense. I'm quite sure his name's going to be up there on that stadium somewhere. I don't know if you guys have a Ring of Honor or whatever, but if you do, I'm sure he's going to be on it. I just think that I'm impressed by him, and then I'm impressed by the wide receivers. They are a big physical group. A bunch of different guys who can make plays, from their wide receivers to their tight ends. Their running backs showed speed. They've got some running backs running away from North Carolina State linebackers and things like that. So, and then I'm watching their offensive line, and their center he's a great player. He's a great player. I mean, you watch how physical he is, how stout he is. He's able to, maintain the depth of the pocket really, really well for the quarterback, which allows him to, survey the field a little bit easier. So it's going to be a great challenge for our team, our defense. And I'm looking forward to watching, because I love being able to go against great football players. That's what makes this game so great.
Thanks, Coach.
Appreciate it. And Coach, thank you very much. Do appreciate your time.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks to head coach Ricky Rahne. Thanks to Bubba Rosenbaum. Great job, man. I know that was on Labor Day, and I missed out on that. Didn't realize on the time. But anyway, great job, my man. I appreciate you behind the scenes. I know this has been a long show, but certainly a lot of great content. And speaking of content, can we flash that out there one more time for folks? I want to remind everybody again, if you didn't hear the absolute empowerment with Coach Jeff Connors, the awesome Hall of Famer strength and conditioning coach we had for 11 years in Greenville, he had caught up with Coach Logan. That was amazing last night. If you get a chance, check that out. It was amazing stuff there for sure. A lot of great programming is on our screen. And of course, we'll be releasing those as individual shows. And if you can, wherever you listen to or watch the Sports Objective, you'll be able to see that on Facebook Live or Facebook and archived, and of course on our YouTube channel as well. Bubba, thank you so much. Do you have anything before we go?
Yeah, very quickly, I'd like to add, as you, if you're viewing this, you see in the top right corner of your screen, subscribe to the Sports Objective channel. We're closing in on 600 subscribers. So, be sure to subscribe, ring that notification bell. Be sure to click all, so that way you're alerted when we release new content. And, we have something every day of the week, as you see there on the screen. A lot of it is East Carolina focused, but the things that aren't are also very interesting, talking college football and so forth. So really excited about the programming we have headed our listeners and viewers' way. And we did not plug the Pirate Football Playback. We'll be with you on Sunday night to take a look back at what will hopefully be the Pirates' first victory of the 2022 season, with ODU Monarchs coming to Dowdy-Ficklen on Saturday at 6 o'clock.
We'll see how it goes, and we'll keep our fingers crossed as far as the Airmark situation, the concession stands go. We'll keep you up to date on anything about that. And by the way, get your tickets, ecupirates.com and 1-800-DOWY-ECU. You want to give a shout out, Bubba, real quick, to Coleman Spain. He's the head of tickets. They did a phenomenal job, and they always do. And I want to say hello to him and a new friend of the show. I'm sure he's tired of me calling him, but I try to find out all the information when it comes to, we want to know, obviously, how the tickets are going. So get your tickets there. Again, ecupirates.com, or you can call them 1-800-DIAL-ECU. All right, we're going to get out of here for Andrew Baze. I want to thank Harry Minium, also Kyle, Matt, Bubba. Thanks to everybody watching and listening tonight. We'll get out of here. And as always, good night, everybody. And go Pirates.
And gold. I'm a pirate down of my soul, and I don't back down, not at all. Find out when the cannons explode, from the sidelines down to the post. Put it down like not even close, all out to the last whistle blow. For the flag with the soul and crossbones. Everybody stand up, get your hands up, let a team know that we got they back. This is our house, this is our town, on top, every 1-9, copy that. Everybody gonna stand, go bananas, scream loud, but don't hold back. Every foot, every yard, every first down, every touchdown with the cannons blast. Get it on, get it all, get the wave going like a